Good evening, AIBA President Sri Rajan Nagar, General Secretary Sri Venkatachalam, Sri Rajesh Bansal, Sri K.S. Krishna, other office bearers of AIBA, members of AIBA, and other distinguished listeners. I thank AIBA for giving me an excellent opportunity to share my thoughts during its month-long celebrations of 52nd anniversary of nationalization. I consider definitely this as a great honor and my sincere thanks to you all. I joined the banking service in 1980. Ever since that date, my admiration for AIBA is always on the rise. I always felt AIBA means achieving the impossibles. 4 events, I think, stand out which made me to admire AIBA: job security and well-defined banking hours when it was thought an impossible thing. That was in the 1960s, 50s and all. Then even prior to nationalization, industry-wise wage settlement started in 1966. It continued after liberalization started in 93. And every time bipartite, whether it will happen, it will not happen, it has to be individual bank, but every time AIBA has achieved it, it is 10 times now the wage settlements have been completed. Then pension, prior to that, the nationalization was an issue, both politically, strategically, with a struggle by all members. I think AIBA has succeeded. It is a master strategist also. It succeeded in clinching the nationalization at the right time. Then pension benefit, everyone was thinking that whether we will get it in our lifetime. So many people retired without getting that. Pre-1986 people were given some 1,000 rupees and all. It got it for the first time, and at that time the other unions, they could not capitalize on it, they could not visualize what is the benefits, and they did not take it. And all employees of AIBA faithfully, I think more than 90% or 95% of the AIBA people immediately accepted it, whereas the other officers and other people, they thought that this is not a good settlement. But they realized it later, including me. And in 2004 or 2006, again a struggle started. When I was in Singapore only, this offer came that, but we paid an amount of 1,10,000 and joined it. But that has nothing when you compare the monthly pension you are getting now and all the commutations. So this pension is a master defined benefit scheme. It is different from a NPS, new pay, whereas it is only a contribution, whereas this is a benefit. So this, I think people should realize that. And all this has been done by AIBA. My admiration for you goes on. Now you are engaged in the, again, people feel that it is impossible now. All those 4 issues were considered impossible at that time. Even now, people are wondering how you achieved it. Now, this issue, that privatization, now you are going to stop it. Because there is an elected government with a good majority, both in Rajya Sabha and Parliament. Amendments are easily possible. And the way the government has done for the last 2-3 years, it appears an uphill struggle, but only for us, not for AIBA. That is why I think this month-long agitation is continue, the awareness campaign you have started, and I think that will fetch you in good spirit for all the employees. They will get, and the struggle will go on. Now, I will red salute to the AIBA for all the achievements. The topic for the day I chose is profitability the only criteria to judge a PSB? Because now even finance minister is on record to say that the efficiency has to improve. Laggards cannot be continued. That is the word she used. That, but whether a PSB has been brought in for profit only. What was the core objective when the nationalization took place? The core objective was that the banking is not reaching the masses. It is actually in the hands of very few people. So we should reach the nook and corner of the country and serve the people and the government social objectives, if it has to reach the people, banking is the only tool available to them to do that. And let us see whether that objectives have been fulfilled. First, let us see the branches and ATMs or the business correspondent. These words were unheard of at the time of nationalization. At that time, we only know what are the branches. It was less than 9,000 branches in 1969. Now it is more than 1,60,000 branches, with about 60 to 70% of the branches still with the public sector banks and their sponsored regional rural banks. More, in addition to that, 2,20,000 ATMs are available to do the banking transaction, that is take money or deposit cash, it is available. And there are 6 lakh villages in India. Even now, there are a lot of places where people cannot go. The business correspondence have been done. And as per the recent report of RBI, more than 5 lakh BCs are serving the rural areas, and majority of them are employed by the public sector bank. And our deposit position, it is a mammoth 152 lakh crores for India as a whole, the scheduled commercial bank, and the advances is around 108 lakh crores. This is from a level of a small peanut. 5,700 crores and 9,000 crores was the figure in 1971. Compare it with the level we have reached today. And the aim of the government was make the branches, make the ATM, make the banking, and make the credit facility available to all the masses. But whether it has been achieved, one is the branch expansion done. Number two, in the agriculture, the advances now, it is around 12 lakh crore is the amount we have financed to the agriculture areas. And I was reading an interesting statistics. Branches with the population less than 10,000, it is 8 to 9% of the total credit of all scheduled commercial bank. In that, 90% of the credit has been extended by the public sector bank because they are only present in the less than 10,000 population places. So this 12 lakh crores, even now, it is only a half job done. Let me come to that. MSME, if you see that micro and small and medium enterprises, even today, 9 lakh crore has been financed by public sector banks only. It is more than 60%. And this current Prime Minister's one of the favorite scheme, Mudra, over 15 lakh crores has been extended in the last 5 years. And in the last 5 years, over 15 lakh crores, and majority of them have been dispersed through public sector banks. And if you look at the infrastructure, these are the priority areas they have identified. They identified when they did it in 1969, the priority areas are conceived as the agriculture, the MSMEs, the transport operators to make the goods and the services available to all the public. And then they have not, only these were included. In 2000, the reforms came, the infrastructure was brought as one area where it should be financed significantly. At that time, the development financial institution, IDBI, ICICI, all got converted into universal banks. Because they got converted into universal bank and IFCI was in a doldrum, the banks were given the responsibility to finance the infrastructure. The persons who collect deposits only up to a maximum period of 5 years, 90 to 95% of the deposit, were asked to finance infrastructure where the break-even will happen only after 7 or 8 years. And it resulted in, from 7,000 crores in 2000, it is now 11 lakh crore exposure on infrastructure. And this 11 lakh crores, the majority has come from the public sector banks. And we have done it. Power, you know that it is always in a problem. Whether it is a state or wherever it is always considered a stress asset area. But that only has developed India. Infrastructure, whether it is power, road, or whatever we enjoy today, it is thanks to the finance given by the public sector banks at the cost of making their balance sheet red. If you analyze why we are not making profit, the core issue will be, one will be the large corporate and the number two will be the infrastructure projects. This 11 lakh crores we have financed by making our balance sheet red. Then these are the finance side of it, the credit side of it, the banking side of it. But after again, the current Prime Minister's favorite theme, financial inclusion, the PMJDY, 41 lakh crore accounts have been opened, 41 crore accounts have been opened, and 97% of these accounts were by public sector banks and regional rural bank. The private banks, which are in existence from 1990 onwards, they are nowhere there. Their contribution is just 2 to 3%. Even in respect of branches, if you look at it, the private sector banks have expanded much more in metro and urban and not in semi-urban and rural areas. This 40, because these accounts are opened, I think last year they announced a scheme, no, Pradhan Mantri Kalyan Garib Kalyan Yojana, and giving farmers 2,000 each, 4 months it will be given. All this were possible because we opened 41 crore account. Direct benefit transfer is happened because of that. The demonetization again. Demonetization, it was, I am not going into the debate of whether it is a success or a failure, because that is not the job of a banker. The banker was asked to do a job and we did it tremendously. 15.33 lakh crore rupees have been exchanged by the public sector banks in this period. And the contribution of private sector bank is minimal. And even the ATMs, the queues were standing. Which ATM the queues were standing? Before the public sector bank ATMs only the queues were standing. Because the private sector banks, they closed their ATMs and they said that they cannot manage, and even the crowds were managed by the public sector banks. And even till today, I think till I retired at least, the compensation to the staff was very, very minimal for this demonetization exercise. Now you look at, since last year, the COVID has started and we were the warriors. The public sector bank people were the warriors. I salute the people who lost their lives, because they would have lived definitely another 20 to 30 years in the normal circumstances. In spite of that, this COVID time also, the government schemes like the emergency credit line or your 2 lakh crore Kisan credit card, whatever you say, all these are extended by the public sector banks. Now people may ask that, sir, you are old timer. So what is there? You developed it and we will further develop it. See, there will be some people who may say that the argument will be that the private sector will further develop it. But let us look at it, how they have developed in the areas I mentioned. In the agriculture, while I financed the Kisan credit card and crop loans, their concentration has been on self-help group and their concentration has been on microfinance. These are all consumer loans. We are also there, but these loans they give it because the interest rate is around more than 15%. That is, they are looking at it as a business proposition, while we look at it as a social and business proposition. Then you look at the MSME, their exposure, whichever bank you take, where they have exposed themselves to MSME, there will be hardly any Shishu type of loans in Mudra. There will be hardly any unsecured loans in MSME. They will definitely, for their one theme is that they are very clear, they are ruthless, they are correct in their approach, and they will go to sectors where he will not feel the pinch and he will get a surplus return. So in the MSME, their concentration will be on that. And demonetization, if one more happens, they will never be in the picture. COVID type of pandemic, if it is there, they may not be there. Opening rural areas and urban areas, if the public sector bank is privatized, the rationalization of branches may happen. And the rationalization of branches, when it happens, all unviable branches, in their opinion, will get closed. And we, even today, for the purpose of social objectivity, we are carrying the rural and semi-urban branches in most of the places. That will be a casualty once it comes. And we are also doing this national pension scheme. We are also promoting this Jivan Jyoti Yojana or your Suraksha Bima Yojana kind of things among the low balance customers. But this will disappear the moment the PSBs are privatized. Okay, they may not do the social objectives as a public sector bank does. But whether they will achieve the efficiency as mentioned by the finance minister, I am just leaving it for you to think with the Yes Bank episode, with a Global Trust Bank episode, with a Times Bank episode, and the recent PMC, a cooperative bank, where accounts have been duped to that extent. It has, RBI also was unable to find it. IL&FS, DHFL. So any number you can say that will say whether they may not achieve the social objectives, they may not achieve the profitability or efficiency parameter also. So if this is the background, I am just telling you, if the public sector banks, let us understand the reason, the core objective for which it was created. Whether it is done, yeah, it is done. But whether it is complete, not yet complete. In agriculture, even today, I am told that money lender are cornering 35% of the lending are still done by the pawnbrokers, money lenders. Only 65% our concentration we are able to penetrate. Still 35% of the people are suffering. And the small finance banks, they replaced the money lenders, but their interest rates are in excess of 18% microfinance and other things. So if the core objective we have done, but if the private sector comes, the core objective may not be valid, and only the profitability may become the criteria, and control may be in the hands of the private sector only and not with the government. So if these advantages are there, see, actually if I were in the government, I will think that, okay, all the social objectives like a mudra or like a financial inclusion or an agriculture to be financed, Kisan credit card, 7 lakh crore cards are there. All this, I would have felt that I will be very happy that let the public sector continue. But the government is bent upon privatizing the public sector banks. Why it should do it? I am just looking at 2 or 3 reasons. One is that disinvestment, they have a fiscal deficit every year. They have to cover it up. And Navaratnas, like Navaratnas, we are now 12 Ratnas. Public sector banks, 12 Ratnas are there. And so they want to encash on that. But whether they will get out of the disinvestment, IDBI Bank, if you look at it, 43,000 crores have been brought in by the government. Government has brought in about 16,000 crores. LIC has brought about 27,000 crores in the last 3 years. The capital funds with IDBI today is 36,000 crores. This 43,000 crores was brought at a share price of 55 and 60. And now if they are going to be privatized, whether LIC or government, they may have to sell it at 36 and 37, thereby making a loss. Can you make a disinvestment for a profit or for a loss? Then you look at LVB. LVB had more than 500 branches, and that was given on a platter to DVS. The disinvestment, whether it has fetched the shareholders of LVB any money? No, it is not. So here, the Air India, they are trying their level best to disinvest for time and again. But there are no takers. And if they try with the IOB or Central Bank of India, whichever bank they see, they may not get what they are desiring. Madam has provided, I think, 1,75,000 crores will come from disinvestment. But from privatizing the public sector bank, the money earned may not be anywhere near to even 20,000 or 30,000 crores. So she should realize that disinvestment is not the route. Number 2, they are unable to provide the capital requirement. I think government has made a mistake. There is a parliament amendment that up to 51% only it is mandatory that we should carry in the public sector bank. The government holding should not come less than 51%. So many years, the banks have earned a profit, they have given the dividend, and even today, only 3 banks are having the government shareholding less than 75%. Only 3 banks, State Bank of India, Canara Bank and PNB. They only have less than 75%. All others are in excess of 80%, 90%, 95%. And all this 80%, 90%, 95%, how it happened is, every year the government is afraid, if I go for a rights issue, it may not be subscribed. If I go for a FPO, it may not get subscribed. So it becomes a preferred issue and the entire money is picked up by the government. The best way for the government should have been that they could have gone to the market time and again, and which should have ensured that adequate capital is come and it would have helped every one of us. Now the government is facing a problem that it is unable to provide capital. But whose mistake is that? Say, I told you, from 5,700 crores in 1971, it is 108 lakh crore today advances. From 2008, it was some 39,000 crores advances. It is 108 lakh crores today. So if this advances, they could have, from 39 lakh crores, it is 108 lakh crores. When this growth has happened, there is nothing wrong that always there is a complaint. It is through fiscal, you are extending the money like a subsidy, or making the government banks to extend loan to make the money available. But when I extend a loan, I should maintain also capital. Suppose had it been time and again, if they have brought in the capital, as and when it was required, from 2000 onwards, no capital was brought in. Only in the last 3 years, in order to remove the banks from prompt corrective action and in order to improve the capital, the government has come with some 3.16 lakh crores in the last 3 or 4 years. This money, 3.16 lakh crores, has been brought mostly by recapitalization bonds. Recapitalization bond, there are a lot of jargons used. Recapitalization bond means nothing, that I give 100 rupees from my left hand, you get it, take it, and give 100 rupees from your right hand to me. So the same money is exchanged on both sides. But capital is required to absorb shocks. The cash neutral capital, the recapitalization bonds, is not the ideal way to do that. The government should have definitely helped. The 2 ways they should have done. One is, whenever there is a growth of 20% or 30% credit growth that is happening, definitely there is a cycle in which the distress will start coming, the stress will start coming. So in those years, they should have adequately capitalized the public sector banks, number one. Number two, when we were making a lot of profits, when the dividends were declared and every person is looking upon as if we are the best in the banking industry, the government should have utilized the opportunity, went to the stock market and raised the capital, or at least should have gone for a rights issue where the existing shareholders could have given the money and made the capital adequate. Having lost all the chances, they woke up only when the banks started making losses on account of provisions. On account of provisions, when they started making loss, they made the recapitalization bonds. The recapitalization bonds has not helped the government or me. Only thing it helped is that it is treated as a capital and the money is used for writing off the writing in excess provision to reduce the NNPA, net NPA level has been reduced so that it looks better. The GNPA, the two-way. So when they did all this, the financial engineering started. The government efforts has never been, see that the third factor the government is not doing is that the legal process. The delay in legal process is something for the last 30 or 40 or 50 years, the problem we face is that we are unable to recover the money in a short time to make the money recycling. They started DRT, they started with the Lok Adalat, they started with the DRT, they started with our SARFAESI, they started with IBC. All this dragged the issue. And this money, it is about 7.5. I was just referring to the RBI report. 7.5 lakh crores money is the battle. Every year the bank is going to the courts to recover the money. And they also started an asset reconstruction company that also has not helped. It also is, and all this has been done. The legal process is not speeded up. On the other hand, the legal process has been used to help the bank to evergreen the balance sheet. And now I will come to the regulator. Regulator, whether he has played his role properly. And whether regulator has played his role properly, everybody is saying, even yesterday, Comrade Raja was telling that 2008, there was no financial crisis in India when the globe was facing the financial crisis. I always felt this way, that North Korea declares that they have no corona too. They have not got corona at all. They are still saying that from last year. This 2008 financial crisis at that time, along with the globe, have we accepted the truth, we would not have faced this much of problem in 2015 and 16. What Reserve Bank of India had done, what the finance minister at that time did, they introduced so many schemes which helped the banks to evergreen their balance sheet. They accounted the interest even though it is not coming. You look at the scheme, strategic debt restructuring, CDR, 5 or 25, you name any scheme, it will be that you can treat a stressed asset as a standard asset, book interest on that, declare profit on that, and the balance sheet will also grow because this is capitalized. So this is the way the regulator, instead of pinpointing, this should not have been done. Even today, for the last 2 years, if you look at it, the MSMEs, there is a restructuring scheme going on. The restructuring scheme, in order to make it popular among the public sector banks or among all banks, what they do, you can retain them as a standard asset if you rehabilitate. This is a wrong way of doing it, because if a unit is viable, it can be standardized. No, it can be rehabilitated even after classifying as NPA. That should have been the instruction of RBI. If RBI wanted to encourage the banks to do the rehabilitation, what they should have done is, they should not have tinkered with the standard asset. They should have said that you make a less provision on a rehabilitated asset and don't account the interest. That would have been a better way of doing. In 2015-16, because of that, more than 5 lakh crores asset quality review when it was conducted, more than 5 lakh crore NPAs were added to our system. And when this is added, if you compare the PSB's balance sheet, the income statement, 20 to 21% is the operating profit on the total income, which is a very healthy factor. Operating profit to total income is around 20 to 21%. But even then, we are unable to show a good profit. We have to put our hands in shame because of provision is at 24% of the total income. And this 24% of the total income is the major issues. And why? Every time they say that efficiency is managed by return on equity, the capital market terms, ROE, return on equity, return on assets, CAR ratio, GNPA ratio, and market cap. All this, if you look at the one factor which accounts for all that is, because we are not allowed to compute these things based on operating profit, since we have to compute things on net profit, they are all negative. So this net profit, the issue is provisions. So unless this legal process is going to be speeded up, and IBC, we thought it will be a game changer. It is a game changer. We are getting only 10% or 20% of the money lent by us. But compared to the other legal forms, I feel the IBC is good in one aspect, that the public sector banks or the government or the persons who have taken a loan are exposed, because the haircut is public, in the public domain. It is public knowledge and a lot of discussions take place. So this government if instead of privatizing, my suggestion will be that don't try disinvestment because you will not get the money anywhere you want, number one. Number two, try to go for rights issue, try to go for FPOs based on availability, because do it slowly. You have 12 banks and their capitals are big, and you can get the disinvestment money by even going for a lesser, that is, keep your stakeholding between 51 and 66. Ideally, you should hold 2/3 of the total equity share so that you will get the majority and you can control the social objectives as well as make people viable. The 33% of the people in the board, they will take care of that. Now, before concluding, can I have another 10 minutes or the coordinator?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Right, okay. Because I should get that.
No.
So, yeah, the first part I concentrated on why the profitability alone cannot be the criteria, because the core objective of nationalization was different. And profitability definitely is an important criteria. It is not a core objective, but it is a criteria needed to sustain the core objective and to carry forward. And the number two issue I concentrated on the role of the government, what it could have done, and the role of the regulator, what you could have done instead of permitting with so many schemes the evergreening. Now, the third part, I would like to concentrate on what, instead of, say, when you point one finger at the other person, there are 4 fingers that is looking at you. So, as a banker also, we have a lot of responsibilities to do. The labor movement, the first point that is told to us is that it comes with, rights come with duties and responsibilities. So the duties and responsibilities, what as a banker we should do, I will just, my thoughts, I am sharing that. And the banker includes the chairman, MD, CEO, the General Secretary of ABA, the General Secretary of All Employees Union Officer Association, the employees there right up to the last level. So every one of us can contribute. How we could have contributed? Number one, you look at the frauds has been the mainstay in derailing all our ambitions. The last 3.5 years, more than 3 lakh crores have been declared as fraud in advances. More than 3 lakh crores. That is nearly 3% to 4% of your total net advances. So if your yield on advances, if you look at it, it is 8%. The cost of fund is 4%. And 4% if it is going to be eaten away by fraud, how the profit can be made by us? Fraud, it is always that, ABA is fighting for it. But I am telling that whether it is a pressurized loan from the top, from the government or from outsiders, the loan is given, the dispersal always lies with me. Can I not make a whistleblower immediately? The persons working in branches, can they not find out that the end use of funds, all these issues, the haircut 10% or 15% or 20%, no, sorry, haircut is 80 or 90% because the assets have not been created. The end use of funds is not ensured. Who can ensure this end use of funds? Persons in the operations. They can definitely ensure the end use of funds. It is easy for all of us. I will just quote an example. I filed a case when I was a AGM in Mount Road, SPT, with the police for a fake document with which they have availed a housing loan. He made me to sit for 3 hours. He did not even look at me. He was so hostile. I asked him, what is the problem? I haven't given the loan. My predecessor gave. I came for filing the case. Why you are? He said, sir, from your house, would you have given this loan? What is the precautions would you not have taken? Why you are coming after 2 years or 3 years for filing a loan against a fake document? For a fake document, why you are coming after 2 or 3 years? Would you not come the next day or at least a month after? So that made me to think. So this, if you look at the frauds, the date of fraud, the date of deduction, and the date of reporting, there is a wide gap between all this. Whichever account is reported as fraud, the Reserve Bank says that these frauds have been deducted 2 to 3 years earlier. Then what made you to not to file the case? And what made you to deduct it after 2 years after it has happened? And the more the delay, the asset will disappear. And the haircut will be definitely 90 or 94%. And yesterday, again, it is a lesson to me. I made a payment through, what is that? They asked me to pay through a app. And when I made the payment, I got a doubt whether the right beneficiary got the money or not. When I checked it, my bank says that all these monies which are paid through app or other things, it will go into a pool system. And from the pool system, it will go to the other bank pool system. From there, the money will go. So it will take at least 1 week or 10 days for me to understand whether the right beneficiary got the money or not. So the computer has made your life opaque. So unless you are going to be alert and on a day-to-day basis, if you observe all this, it will become very difficult. So the whistleblower concept has to be activated, number one. Number two, that end use of funds, the dispersal has to be made efficient by from the scale 1 officers right up to the MD. This dispersal, end use of fund should be taken as a sanctum sanctorum and it should be done. Then every year, the return of amount, see, they come back with a statement that the return of amount, it is only technically written off, the legal cases are still going on. And they get away by saying that. Why not we bring the disclosure statement? RBI can think of bringing a disclosure statement in which what were the amount written off technically in the earlier years, how much money has been recovered, what are the assets available there, and what is the chances of recovery in the remaining cases, kind of statement. It can come along with the balance sheet disclosure statement so that each bank is compelled to say, they cannot get away that it is only technically written off, the legal case is going. So what is actually happening, that will come into play. And your NPA, we cannot just concentrate on large and keep quiet that the NPA is an issue of large corporates. You look at MSME, you look at Agri, it is 12 to 15% is the education loan or MSME or Agri. So somewhere down the line, our processing skills is on the downline. And you have to achieve the target, no doubt. But why you should achieve, whether anyone can question you, if you achieve the target only to the quality people, if you there is a shortfall in the target, will anybody question you? Nobody will question you. So why these things? And look at this, there are some schemes. Now, can you imagine, say now let us come to the other side, whether the society is supporting you totally in the public sector banks fight against privatization. If you look at it, how many of them are supporting? We have to admit that it is not up to the desired level. It is because we have not implemented the objectives in a totally sincere manner. Let us look at it. Kisan credit card, I saw 7 lakh crore is outstanding and 6.5 crore beneficiaries are there. Kisan credit card always means that he can operate it any number of times he wants. He can credit the money, he can take the money. All of us know the Kisan credit card, it is issued once and it will be renewed at the time of renewal again. The credit card is never used, only cash is dispersed, cash is taken back. And there are some good schemes of this government that like the Jeevan Jyoti Yojana or your Suraksha Bima Yojana. These are all for the poor. 12 rupees he pays, he gets an insurance cover for 2 lakhs. 330 rupees he pays, he gets an insurance cover for 5 lakhs. These schemes, whether we have popularized among our savings customers. Till I was there, even last year I checked, the number of customers covered under the savings for these schemes is very, very abysmally low. And if we have done that, the society would have benefited. Leave the commission that the government will get. The society would have been benefited abnormally. And we are getting a pension scheme thanks to ABA. But there is a 90% of unorganized sector. For them, the government is also saying that every year 1,000 rupees we will pay for 3 consecutive years and bring them. The unorganized sector, how many of us have shown interest in bringing the unorganized sectors into the NPS? That is the social objectives. If it is done with a social mind, then I think in our fight of privatization against privatization, we would have found a massive movement outside the bank to support us. That is what I feel. And the staff should be engaged for recovery, and the staff should feel that NPA is the crux of the whole issue, whether it is large, agri or MSME or education or anywhere, because even in your last settlement, it hits you in your packet also. As per the last settlement, on the operating profit, if there is a growth of more than 5%, the persons get some 5 days salary or other things. The operating profit, I was mentioning that it is 21% of your total income. That will go up if the NPAs are on the decline. Because on the NPA accounts, you are not booking income. That is why the total income has come down. And that is why the operating profit also comes down. So the staff should be involved in recovery. Totally, it should be, they should be involved in recovery. And these things they should take. And core objectives, we are there to achieve. And in the core objectives, I would like my whole soul and heart and mind to go along with the social objective so as to make the beneficiary benefited and the banker is not losing. And number 2, for achieving the core objective, the profitability is an essential component, though it is not for which PSB has been created, but continuing the profitability only will ensure that core objectives are continued to be met. I think I will stop with that. And finally, before concluding, the government and regulator should bring the workman director and the officer director into the board, because there is a concept called quality circle in Japan. What they say is the person operating it know the deficiencies much better. So if a screw has to be repaired, the best idea will come from a person who is making use of it. And the implementer side, workman director and the officer director are the persons inside the bank. They know the shortfalls of the bank. They know the plus and strength of the bank. So if they are brought in, they will definitely make a world of change in the board of directors. With that, I am stopping. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Viswanathan. It was a very wonderful lecture, especially because you are dealing from practical angle. We could thoroughly enjoy the lecture, and it has given us also a lot of insight and new inputs. We have dealt with so many practical issues. Particularly, I want to tell you about the IBC. You say in one way it is transparent. So because the raping is going on in public, I think we should not justify. As for
the momentum will go on. See, that what I meant is, earlier we were not knowing that it is taking place. Now we know that 90% haircut. See, the Shiva Shankaran case or a Videocon case, the Jet Airways just 500 crores. It is actually Jet Airways. Had we done the rehabilitation at the right time, it was not a bad company. But finally, we ended up at 500 crores. And all this frauds have been reported much later. And IBC, I only know in a lighter when I said.
No, we understand. We fully understand. Because that is another way of looting the people's money.
No, it is very high, very high.
But the advantage is we come to know how much is being looted.
Looted. And, this BIFR, and if you go to the history, BIFR cases where no assets are there, we were allowed to continue, and the promoters just vanished.
No, it is a systematic loot daylight robbery, as once Yashwant Sinha himself said, it's a daylight robbery. Anyway, your lecture has given us a lot of new points to us, and we are extremely thankful to you. We will further deliberate among ourselves. We will also interact with you. Harishankar sir also will talk to you how to take things forward when we talk to the government. Now, I would request Comrade Rajesh to formally propose a vote of thanks.
Okay, sir. Okay. I, on behalf of All India Bank Employees Association, convey my hearty thanks to Shri Vishwanathan ji for his thoughtful, educative, and inspiring lecture today. In the present scenario, when public sector banks are under severe attack, your guidance and views will help our rank and file to understand the significance of struggle in defense of public sector banks. We again thank you, sir, and all participants in this webinar on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you all.
Thank you. And at the end, announcement about tomorrow. Tomorrow is a holiday in many states, so we have kept the webinar at 4 o'clock, like Sunday. That is number one. All have to kindly take note. It is not 7 o'clock, it is evening 4 o'clock. So from 3:30 onwards, we can enter, and lecture will start by 4 o'clock. And tomorrow we'll have a new subject. So far we have been talking about this privatization, NPAs, bad loans, why banks should not be privatized, etc. Tomorrow will be a very important subject, because in India, which is a young society, job is very important. Employment is very important, and privatization has a totally adverse negative impact on jobs. So the youth of the country will be seriously affected if banks are privatized and public sector is privatized. So to talk to us on that, we have invited Dr. Kanaya Kumar. Is Comrade Kanaya Kumar,
Okay.
because he's PhD, so he's Dr. Kanaya Kumar. We all know him, and he's a very articulated speaker. So his lecture will be of great benefit to all of us. How, as youth, they feel about the privatization. Senior people worry about pension. I get a lot of mails from retired people. Take care of public sector because my pension fund. So that is one angle. Whereas we are more concerned about the future of the young people. For them, we are fighting. So that aspect will be taken up tomorrow, and the speaker will be the popular Dr. Kanaya Kumar. So I request all of you to kindly mobilize more number of people, especially the young people, to listen to him. And with this, with the permission of our President Dr. Rajan Nagar, I also thank Vishwanathan sir for his nice lecture. And we thank all of you for your cooperation for this program today. With this, good night, and we come to a close. We meet tomorrow before 4 o'clock. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It was very good, sir. Vishwanathan sir.
Thank you.